All right, so thank you so much for sitting down with us. For the record, can I get your first and last name and a good title?
Yeah, first name's Doug, last name is Olsen. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI in Oregon.
Great. So a lot has been being said about Portland by the federal government, as I'm sure you're well aware. One thing that I wanted to ask you about is President Trump was talking about how Portland needs, he was implying that Portland needs help. He was saying, we'll wipe them out, we'll go in there. Do you feel like Portland needs help from more federal agencies to deal with whatever's happening outside the ICE building?
Well, I think there's what's happening at the ICE building and then the crime problem at large, both in Portland, across the state of Oregon, and across the country. I think we're seeing crime trending down, which is good, but I think we also have to remember crime hit historical highs shortly after the COVID epidemic in 2020. So it's still too high. Like when we have murders over a weekend, it's still too high. So I think we can always, law enforcement can always use extra resources. It's one of those things, like we kind of accomplish that here by partnering with our state and local partners on a number of task forces to combat violent crime, to work on it that way. And I think it's been very effective. I think crime is trending down, but we want to make sure it continues to trend down.
When we say crime, do we mean violent crime as well?
Yeah, violent crime. I'd say I'm generalizing any type of violent crime, narcotics trafficking, crimes against violent children, or violent crimes against children, excuse me, with that one, and then I'd say human trafficking, but all types of crime that we would categorize as violent crime.
That's helpful information. I know that FBI Director Kash Patel put out a tweet where he basically listed a bunch of accolades that the Portland FBI has achieved. I wanted to ask you about that because from an outsider standpoint, it looked like those are things that you guys pretty much are always doing. Were those out of the ordinary? Were those part of some new initiative or effort?
I think we always take an aggressive approach to combat crime here, but I think we're extra focused on it right now. I feel like we want things to continue to trend in the right direction in the city of Portland, and then in our territory at large, which covers the entire state of Oregon. So I think there's increased focus. I think there has been increased focus in the last year on violent crime, what we call transnational organized crime, violent gangs, on that type of work. We've gotten additional resources this year, which has allowed us to focus more on that threat than we would have without those resources if we hadn't received them. So yeah, when the new director took over, he made it an initiative to push some of those resources out from headquarters to the field offices, and that has allowed us to do more in that space.
Can you tell us more about what those resources are and what crime specifically when you say transnational?
Yeah, when you're talking about transnational organized crime or violent gangs, it could be local area drug distribution networks where you have local area gangs that are distributing fentanyl, methamphetamine to the local public. So dangerous drugs being distributed to the local public. There's always violence that surrounds that type of distribution, so that's something that we definitely target along with our local and state partners. In some cases, we're able to link groups to actual drug distribution networks outside of the state or even outside of the country. So if we're able to link a case to a cartel down in Mexico or to a dangerous gang, then we can use additional resources at the national level to help us combat those local problems here.
That's also helpful information. Is there any sort of quantity or any sort of figure you could give us, even if it's a generalization, on how much increase of resources y'all have gotten?
Yeah, I think one thing is we've been given an authorization to receive additional resources. Some of those resources we've received, some of those spots will be filled later on, because we can't just create new agents overnight or create new intelligence analysts overnight. So the big deal is that we've been given extra capacity to have extra employees here in this office, but it's going to take a little bit of extra time to actually realize all those extra resources. But we've already started planning for it. We've moved resources around our office that we already have so that we could focus more on those initiatives, on those priorities for the FBI and the administration. And then we're hoping soon to receive additional resources. We know we're getting more resources in the fall from the academy, and then also transfers from other offices that'll help us focus on those issues even more.
So basically, with this new administration, or under FBI Director Kash Patel, you guys have gotten more money, resources to hire more agents. Is that?
Yeah, without getting too much into like company speak, I would say, if you have a team size that's normally set at 20, and then they say, hey, we're gonna permanently increase the size of that team to 30. We've gotten a permanent increase in like what we're allowed to be in terms of size. But you can't grow overnight. So just because you get an increase in capacity doesn't mean you can like realize that growth overnight. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah,
so,
but you have been seeing more growth
yes.
in the crimes you're able to. What would be the correct word? Crimes you're trying to fight, crimes you're trying to apprehend.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're very focused on anything that causes violent crime in the community. So it's all those related things that we kind of talked about in terms of drug distribution networks at the local level, drug distribution networks at like a higher level, any types of trafficking, any types of crimes against children, any types of traditional violent crimes, so robberies, all those types of offenses that have the chance of like causing violence against our community. We're really focused on that stuff.
I also want to ask you about something else President Trump said. It appeared that he was speaking about protests outside the ICE facility when he was talking about wiping protesters out and them ruining the city. That's what it appears. I wanted to ask you, how big of a problem is it really what's going outside the ICE facility between protesters and DHS employees?
Yeah, I would respectfully, I'd refer those questions to ICE. That's their facility. We certainly support them where we can. When we have an assault on a federal officer or something like that, we will investigate those crimes aggressively. We work really closely with our partners at ICE and the U.S. Attorney's Office to address any violence that occurs. We definitely never want to interfere with anybody's protected right to protest. But when someone goes into that protest with the intent of causing violence or perpetrating violence on someone else, then we take that very, very seriously, and we work with our partners to address those individuals, and we help investigate those crimes.
I think the figure was something like over 100 people have been arrested outside that building. Is that something you're able to speak to?
Well, those arrests and citations, I would again refer you to either the U.S. Attorney's Office or ICE on that. Like, we have several active investigations, but that does not encompass the entire breadth of the charging and the citations that they've assigned down there.
Yeah. Anything else you want to clear up with anything sort of being spread around?
No, I would say, our office is here to support and defend this community and also uphold the Constitution. So we take violence very, very seriously. We've been enabled to allot additional resources to combat violence in Portland and across the state of Oregon, and I think we're being very successful at that thanks to our partnerships with our state and local partners. We want to continue to strengthen those partnerships and go after the violence that impacts our community, and that's what we're here to do, because this community is also our community. We live here, our kids go to school here, and it's one of those things we want to make sure that we're protecting our community and the folks that are in it so that everybody can enjoy it.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's all I have.
Thank you for taking the time.
No, we really appreciate it. I did not know that because the federal government is giving more resources to eventually get more agents and whatnot, that's really impacting your guys' ability to go after transnational crime. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I would categorize it like when you guys are talking about it, it's more of a shift of resources because basically the government isn't getting bigger. they're taking resources that were headquarters resources and they're moving those to the field offices. So,
And this is a field office.
so they're shifting. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So the field offices are the working end of the FBI. That's where we actually, work on the law enforcement and all the other functions that we do. So when you talk about shifting resources, they're taking headquarters bodies and capacity and they're moving it to the field office so that they can help more at the local level.
What I'm guessing is the field office is more boots on the ground versus more administrative at headquarters.
Correct.
Okay, that's a very interesting shift. And then if it's really helping with those numbers and you're able to do more.
I mean, it is. I mean, it's
great.
one of those things like we find ourselves doing as much as we can with with whatever we have. But anytime you get additional resources, it's always helpful. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's helpful, so I can use the word shifting rather.
Yeah.
From headquarters to field office, it's helping you guys have more resources to go after transnational crime. That's really helpful.
yeah, it's a focus. It's a focus on the field offices. That's a good way to categorize it. So.
Perfect.